If you shop for home sewing machines long enough, you start noticing the same names show up again and again. Brother, Singer, and a few familiar model numbers keep getting bought because they are affordable, easy to find, and good enough to feel like a safe first step. But popular does not always mean right for your actual sewing life. What matters more is how a machine feels after the excitement wears off. Does it thread without a fight? Can it handle a hem, a pillow cover, or a stack of seams without sounding stressed? Does it help you sew more? Or does it quietly become the machine you avoid because it is annoying to set up? That is the lens for this one. We are looking at the machines people buy all the time, then asking the practical question underneath the hype. Should you actually buy it? Or is there a better fit hiding one shelf over? I am keeping the focus on current home sewing models from Brother and Singer because those are the ones most home sewists keep circling back to. By the end, the goal is not to shame any machine. It is to help you buy the one that matches your projects instead of the one that just looks familiar in the card. The Brother XM2701 is the kind of machine a lot of people buy because it looks like an easy yes. It is light, it is approachable, and Brother gives it 27 built-in stitches, a one-step buttonhole, automatic needle threading, and 6 included accessory feet. For a quick first setup, that is genuinely a nice package. The part people do not always think through is what kind of sewing life this machine is built for. The XM2701 makes sense if you want to hem pants, do simple mending, sew a few crafts, or learn the basics without dragging around a heavier machine. It is easy to move, easy to store, and easy to say yes to when your budget is tight. But that is also why it can be a trap for someone who already knows they want to keep sewing. Once you start layering seams, quilting larger pieces, or wanting a little more workspace, the XM2701 starts feeling more like a starter tool than a long-term home base. That is not a flaw. It just means the machine is honest about its lane. So yes, it is a sensible buy for a light-use household. If you want one machine to grow with you for years, though, this is where the bargain starts to look a little smaller than it first did. The Singer Promise 1409 is another machine people buy because it feels simple and low risk. Singer keeps the specs intentionally basic: 6 built in stitches, a 4-step buttonhole, a front loading bobbin, and a lightweight body that is easy to pick up and move. On paper, that sounds perfect for someone who just wants to get started. In real life, though, beginners sometimes confuse simple with future proof. The Promise 1409 is fine for mending, small home fixes, and very basic sewing. If that is your actual use case, it can be enough. But once you want to sew garments with a little more variety, or you want the machine to handle more than the most basic everyday work, the limits show up fast. That is what makes it such a common buy and such a mixed recommendation. The Promise 1409 does not pretend to be a powerhouse. It is the machine for someone who wants a low friction, no drama starter machine and is comfortable knowing it may not be the one they keep forever. If you are the type of buyer who already suspects you will keep sewing regularly, the Promise 1409 is probably too small a target. If you just want a simple machine for the house, it still makes sense. The Brother GX37 is one of those machines that keeps showing up in beginner carts because it feels like the safe middle ground. Brother gives it 37 built-in stitches, a one-step buttonhole, a wide table, and a free arm setup, plus a 1/2/25-year limited warranty. It sounds modest, but that is part of the appeal. This is the kind of machine that works if you want everyday sewing without a lot of drama. It is more flexible than the most stripped-down budget options, but it is still straightforward enough that you are not swimming in extra controls on day one. For mending, light garment work, and simple home projects, that balance is a real advantage. The reason to pause is that a lot of buyers want the GX37 because it seems beginner friendly, when what they really mean is they want something that will keep up with growing projects. And the GX37 is good at teaching the basics, but it is not the most expandable choice if you already suspect you will get serious about quilting or heavier sewing. That said, it remains one of the cleaner purchases in the everyone buys it tier. It is not flashy. It is not overloaded. It just does the basic home sewing job without making you work too hard for it. The Singer. Heavy Duty 4432 is probably the machine most people buy when they decide they want more power. Singer backs that up with 32 built-in stitches, a heavy-duty metal frame, a built-in needle threader, a top drop-in bobbin, and the kind of extra-high sewing speed that gets people excited about denim, canvas, and thicker seams. For the right buyer, that is a great move. If you know you will sew heavier fabrics, reinforce gear, or work through stacked seams that make cheaper machines unhappy, the 4432 earns its reputation. It feels like a machine that wants to work instead of one that wants to be admired. The reason I would still make people think twice is that beginners often buy the 4432 because it sounds stronger, not because their actual projects actually need that strength. If your real sewing is mostly cotton, small repairs, household items, and learning the basics, the heavy duty personality can feel like more machine than you asked for. It is useful, but it is not automatically the smoothest everyday fit. So, yes, this is a very common buy. It is also one of those machines where the right answer depends heavily on what you really sew. The Brother CS7000X is the machine that makes the strongest case for buying once and buying better. Brother gives it 70 built-in stitches, an automatic needle threader, a quick set bobbin, a wide table, 10 included feet, and a 25-year limited warranty. That is a serious everyday home sewing package. What makes it stand out is not just the feature count, it is the way those features line up for real life. The CS7000X still feels friendly enough for a newer sewist, but it also gives you room to grow into quilting, garment sewing, home decor, and all the random projects that show up once sewing becomes a habit instead of a one-time experiment. This is the one that avoids the usual beginner trap. You do not have to outgrow it immediately, and you do not have to fight with it just to do ordinary work. It is the kind of machine that disappears into the routine, which is usually the best compliment a home sewing machine can get. If someone told me they wanted one home machine that could cover the widest spread of everyday sewing without feeling like a compromise, this is the one I would point them toward first. So, if you are looking at the machines people buy all the time, the real question is not whether the model is popular. The real question is whether it matches the way you actually sew. The XM2701 is a Smart Light Use starter. The Promise 1409 is a basic house machine. The GX37 is a solid middle ground. The heavy-duty 4432 is best when thicker fabric is part of the plan. And the CS7000X is the best all-around buy if you want one machine that can grow with you. That is the part most shoppers skip. They buy for the price tag, the name, or the first review they saw, then they discover later that the machine they bought was perfect for somebody else. A better buy is the one that makes sewing easier to start and easier to keep doing. If you are stuck between two of these models, use your project list as the tiebreaker. Light repairs and casual learning point one way, denim, canvas, and utility sewing point another. And if you want one machine that can still make sense a year from now, the long-term answer gets a lot clearer. If you want, comment with the model you were about to buy, and I will tell you whether it looks like a smart pick or a purchase, you will probably outgrow too fast.